I used to work at a radio station. Not one of those big, flashy ones you'd hear in the city with overpaid DJs and playlists full of pop garbage. No, this was a small outfit, tucked away in the woods of upstate New York, broadcasting to a handful of towns too insignificant to show up on most maps. WXRK, Station 13 was its name, AM 1313 on the dial. The signal was weak, the equipment was ancient, and the pay was barely enough to keep my car running. But I didn't mind. I liked the quiet night shift. At least I did, until I figured out what was really going on. The station was a single-story building, squat and unassuming, surrounded by towering pines that blocked out the stars. It had been there since the 60s, built by some eccentric who thought rural America needed its own voice. By the time I started working there in 2018, it was a relic. Peeling paint, flickering fluorescent lights, and a transmitter tower out back that groaned in the wind like it was alive. My job was simple. Keep the broadcast running overnight, play the pre-recorded shows, and monitor the equipment. If something broke, I'd fix it with a screwdriver and a prayer. Most nights it was just me, a thermos of coffee, and the hum of static. The first few months were uneventful. I'd clock in at 11 p.m., clock out at 7 a.m., and drive home as the sun crept over the horizon. The pre-recorded shows were a mix of old talk radio, weather updates, and the occasional folk music hour hosted by a guy named Marty, who'd retired years ago but still mailed in tapes. Sometimes I'd get a call from a trucker or a night owl asking me to play something specific. I'd tell them we didn't take requests. Everything was pre-scheduled, but they'd laugh and hang up. It was routine, predictable, until the signal started acting up. It was late summer, maybe August, when I first noticed it. The broadcast would cut out for a split second, replaced by a faint whisper, like someone muttering just out of earshot. I checked the logs, tweaked the dials, but everything looked fine. The station manager, a gruff guy named Ed, who only showed up during daylight hours, told me it was just interference from the tower. Old tech, old problems, he'd say, waving me off. But it kept happening. Night after night, the whispers grew clearer, until I could almost make out words. Listen, closer, hear us. I started recording the glitches on my phone, thinking I could prove it wasn't my imagination. When I played them back, the whispers were there, layered under static like a hidden track on a vinyl record. I showed Ed one morning, but he just shrugged. Probably picking up some CB chatter. Don't worry about it. His nonchalance pissed me off, but I let it go. I needed the job. Then the calls started. The first one came at 2:13 a.m. on a Tuesday. The phone rang, a shrill, outdated sound that made me jump. I picked up, expecting a bored trucker. Instead, there was silence, followed by a low, raspy voice. "You're hearing it, aren't you?" it said. No hello, no introduction, just that. "Hearing what?" I asked, my mouth dry. "The signal. The real one." The line went dead before I could respond. After that, the calls came every night, always at 2:13. Sometimes it was the same voice, sometimes others. Men, women, even a child once, all asking the same thing. "Are you listening? Can you hear us?" I stopped answering after a week, letting it ring out, but the voices left messages. I'd find them on the station's ancient answering machine, garbled and distorted, like they were recorded underwater. Ed refused to listen. "Prank callers," he said, "ignore them." But I couldn't ignore the tapes. One night I decided to dig through the station's archives, a dusty closet full of reel-to-reel tapes and yellowed logbooks. I figured if the glitches were interference, there'd be a record of it happening before. Most of the tapes were labeled with dates and show titles. Marty's Folk Hour, June 72. Weather Report, October 85. But at the bottom of a box, I found a reel with no label, just a red X scratched into the case. Curious, I threaded it onto the player and hit play. At first it was just static. Then a voice, calm, measured, like a newscaster, cut through. "This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. Do not adjust your receiver. The following message is intended for select listeners only. The static swelled and the voice changed, dropping to a whisper. We are the lost. We are the unheard. If you can hear this, you are chosen. Stay tuned. The tape ended with a screech that made my ears ring. I sat there, staring at the reel as it spun out. Chosen for what? I checked the logbooks for any mention of an emergency broadcast like that, but there was nothing. The dates on the nearby tapes were from 1969, the station's first year. Whatever this was, it was old and buried. The next night, the glitches stopped being random. They started forming a pattern. Every hour on the 13th minute, the broadcast would cut to the whispers. I wrote down what I could decipher. Find the source. Beneath the tower. We wait. It was a message, deliberate and directed at me. I didn't tell Ed. He'd think I was crazy, and maybe I was. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, was trying to reach me through the signal. I started researching. During the day, I'd hit the library in town, digging through old newspapers and county records. WXRK had a strange history. The founder, a guy named Harold Crane, had disappeared in 1970, a year after the station went live. No body, no note, just gone. The official story was he'd skipped town, but locals swore they'd seen him wandering the woods near the tower, muttering about voices in the air. The station had changed hands a dozen times since, always plagued by technical issues and staff turnover. One article mentioned a fire in '73 that destroyed half the building, but the tower survived unscathed. Weird, but not enough to build a theory on. Then I found the blueprint. It was tucked into a folder of permits at the county clerk's office. A faded schematic of the station, dated 1968. The building itself was standard, but the tower had an odd detail, a sub-level marked maintenance chamber beneath its base. I'd walked that property 100 times and never seen a hatch or a door. If it existed, it was hidden. That night, I brought a flashlight and a crowbar to work. The calls had stopped, but the whispers were constant now, bleeding into every broadcast. Beneath, beneath, beneath. I waited until 3 a.m., when the world felt dead, then slipped outside to the tower. It was a skeletal thing, rusted and leaning slightly, surrounded by a chain-link fence I'd never bothered to lock. I searched the ground, kicking aside pine needles and dirt, until my flashlight caught a glint of metal. A trap door, flush with the earth, secured with a padlock. The crowbar made quick work of it. The hinges screamed as I pried it open, revealing a narrow shaft with a ladder bolted to the wall. The air smelled damp and metallic, like blood and wet stone. I hesitated, my heart pounding, but the whispers in my head, louder now, insistent, pushed me forward. I climbed down. The chamber was small, maybe 10 feet square, with concrete walls slick with condensation. In the center sat a machine, a hulking antique transmitter, its dials glowing faintly despite no visible power source. Cables snaked from it into the walls, pulsing like veins. And there, scratched into the concrete floor, was a symbol, a circle with 13 lines radiating outward, like a warped sun. The whispers stopped. The silence was deafening. Then the machine hummed to life, and a voice, not a whisper, but clear and sharp, spoke from nowhere. "You found us." I stumbled back, my flashlight shaking. "Who are you?" "We are the signal," it said. "The lost, the forgotten, trapped in the airwaves by Crane's design. You've heard us. Now you join us." Before I could run, the chamber filled with static, a sound so loud it felt like my skull would split. My vision blurred, and I collapsed, clawing at the ladder as the machine's glow intensified. I don't remember climbing out. I don't remember driving home. But when I woke up the next morning, my ears were ringing, and my phone was full of recordings I didn't make. My own voice whispering, "Listen, closer, hear us." I quit that day, told Ed I was done, packed my stuff, and left town. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. Here's the twist. It's been years and I've tried to move on. New job, new life, far from Station 13. But last week I turned on the radio, some random AM station, and heard it. My voice, faint but unmistakable, buried in the static. Beneath, beneath, beneath. I checked the dial. 1313. WXRK's signal shouldn't reach this far. It shouldn't still exist. The station burned down in 2020. Tower and all, according to the news. I looked it up online, desperate for answers. Posts from locals say the fire was no accident. Someone torched it after years of haunted signal rumors. But one user, anonymous, posted something that froze me. A grainy photo of the tower's base, taken days before the fire. There in the dirt was the trap door, and standing next to it, barely visible in the shadows, was me. I don't remember going back. I don't remember posing for that picture, but the whispers are in my head again, louder every night. They're not asking me to listen anymore. They're telling me to broadcast, to rebuild, to spread the signal. I used to work at Station 13. Now I think Station 13 works through me.